Good morning, Tampa Bay. What is going on? Channelside Sports in the morning, Monday, June 20th. Of course, we've got our good buddy Henry Yoho of Bolts by the Bay joining us. We're going to preview a dire need for our Tampa Bay Lightning to win Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals tonight. We're going to talk about some of the woes that the Tampa Bay Rays experienced on this latest road trip. Some interesting Tampa Bay Buccaneers news. And I got to say that personally, I'm not shocked by it. I actually wrote about this almost a full year ago. And now others are starting to pick up on it. And in case you didn't know, the NBA drafted it on Thursday. And I got one small scenario for you right now. As we'll build up to this as we go through the week and close in on Thursday's draft. But I've got one little scenario that I would like to see our Orlando Magic do. But before we do that, of course, we are going to talk and hit it off and talk all about our Tampa Bay Lightning with Mr. Henry Yoho. Good morning, sir. Happy Monday to you.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me as always.
And actually, before we even jump into the Tampa Bay Lightning, obviously we do not do shows on the weekend. So I'd like to say happy belated Father's Day to everybody and happy Juneteenth to those who celebrate and acknowledge our latest federal holiday. So hopefully everybody had a great weekend and hopefully we all have a great week of sports ahead of us.
Yeah, hopefully we do. Hopefully we keep the sports calendar fuller. As we head deeper into the summer now.
Absolutely. And there's no better way to kick it off than talking about our Tampa Bay Lightning and their this is absolute must win at this point, is it not? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the only team in Stanley Cup final history to come back 0-3 is the 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs over the Detroit Red Wings, which was 80 years ago. So, yeah, that's not a hole you want to be in.
Yeah, no, I'll take your word for it on that. I think if the Lightning don't win this one tonight, I think for all intents and purposes, this series will be over. They're never going to quit, but 3-0 hole would be, a gigantic hole that it'd be hard to picture them winning 4 games in a row against this team.
Yeah, and we can say all of the right things after games, like, okay, we didn't lose the series, we lost the game. We can say all of those right things, but I mean, at some point, the writing is going to be on the wall, especially if you happen to lose Game 3. If they lose Game 3 I don't know if the series is completely out of reach. We know that this Tampa Bay Lightning team can overcome adversity. We know that they like to play with their backs against the wall for some reason. They like to be in these holes, especially this season. They like to feel teams out more so than not. But if the Avalanche do get the win tonight, I want to see a better team than especially what we saw in Game 2 from our Lightning. But we haven't really seen the Tampa Bay Lightning show up at all this series, really. And even though Game 1 went to overtime, they still didn't look great in Game 1. And then Game 2, I felt like they weren't even aware that they were playing a hockey game.
Yeah, I agree. They haven't looked like themselves in really any aspect of their game so far through 2 games, and the Avalanche have really taken it to them. After Game 2, there was not really much positive that you could say about the way that they did play. Special teams were poor. Everything was poor. And, you just got to find a way to turn the page. And the only positives that you can take away from that is really the history of what they've shown is as recent as these playoffs. And, this is not a hole that's become unfamiliar to them now. So, that's really all you can say for a positive outlook. There's not much you could take away from the first 2 games of the way they played, but they just have to find a way to turn the page, and they've shown that they can do that so far.
Yeah, I think for me is, a lot of people are getting on Andrei Vasilevsky because the goals being scored is kind of like the quarterback wins and loss record, right? Where you're like, well, but I mean, yeah, the quarterback is the man under center, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's the reason why they won or he's the reason why they lost. And I feel like the same thing can go for the goalie in hockey, where I think we can realistically put what 3 goals on Vazzy. Like he gaffed on 3 goals in my opinion, and then the other 4 were turnovers, odd man rushes, to where I mean you've got to sell out and stop the puck, and you're not always. I think I saw the number, and I know that 75% of stats are made up 100% of the time on the fly. So I think I saw the stat. It was something like in the high 60s is your percentage of scoring if you're on an odd man rush. I mean that it doesn't matter how good Vazzy is if you're leaving him out to dry against a scoring powerhouse like the Colorado Avalanche, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. The truth is he hasn't been great so far in the series, but I think especially in game 2, it's hard to fault him on a lot of what ended up coming his way. Especially towards the end is where the odd man rushes started coming in a lot more. He was facing a ton of shots from really high danger chances, and whether his head was really in it or not, it just was really just piling up all at the end for everybody. But he has to be better, and the team in front of him especially has to be better. So it's really hard to pin it all on him for sure. But he knows, and everybody knows that he has to be better than he has been, and I think that you can expect that because he's shown. Through this playoffs, he gets better as series goes along. So, I don't think there's any reason to believe it'll be any different now.
Yeah, I totally expect to bounce back, which is why I was actually for John Cooper not pulling Vazzy. I think that would have done way more harm to his mental psyche than looking up at the scoreboard and seeing that the Avalanche had scored 7 goals.
Yeah, that was a big talking point. On the television broadcast, on social media, everyone wanted to know why Vazzy was still in there, and I didn't mind seeing him stay in, just because, for one, because of how unfamiliar the opponent's been. The more time he's in there, the more he's able to collect more and more information and get more experience with who he's up against. And like I said before, he gets better as series goes along. I think just the more he sees of the opponent, the better it is for him. So I didn't really hate him staying in there at all.
Yeah, and I think the way that the defense is just kind of getting blown by. I mean, this Avalanche team, we knew they were fast, but they are very fast. And the way that they are just blowing by our defense, Vazzy needs all of the time that he can get in goal so he can try to stop them if he needs to strap this team to his back again. Because he's bailed them out several times over the past couple of, throughout this entire run. And we need him now more than ever tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the speed is what everyone comes back to against this opponent, and rightfully so. Like I mentioned before, it's a team that he hasn't seen a whole lot of, and especially at this level, you got to get that. You got to get those reps in, and I think that he will be better. He's got to be better. Everyone's got to be better, but especially him. He's the most important player for the Lightning. And honestly, it could have been worse than it was. 7-0. It's hard to believe, but he made a few big saves to kind of keep things where they were. But he's got to be better, and the team in front of him has got to be better for sure.
Yeah, I think again, and this has kind of been the theme for every series is you've got to clean up these penalties. A lot of these self-inflicted wounds, your turnovers, and your giveaways are much higher than they have been over the last 2 postseasons. And we've had 2 delay of game penalties in 2 games. Like, I mean, to me, and you listen, you heard Sergachev talk about it. You've heard Pat Maroon talk about it. And okay, well, yeah, it's a boneheaded, uncharacteristic play. I was like, but regardless, it still happened. Like, we've got to slow down. We're not playing Tampa Bay Lightning hockey right now. We're trying to play Avalanche hockey, which is not our style of hockey. And I think that's where we are falling by the wayside as a team.
Yeah, I guess the positive is that you can take away that the Lightning, a lot of their mistakes can be cleaned up. If they limit the penalties, limit the turnovers. I thought that game 2 was the greatest example of what a poor start can do for you. They committed a penalty, I believe, in the first minute or two, going down a man early, getting the top guys going for Colorado. And, they scored on that first power play, and things just really snowballed from there. Lightning never really had a shot of coming back. So you saw what those mistakes can do early on and how they can pile up, the way that they get this team going, the way that they can go. And, they truthfully got embarrassed. And I think that the poor start and the penalties and giveaways really just started to feel that for them.
So heading into tonight, what are some key? I don't want to say keys to winning. I feel like everybody uses that phrase, but what are some players who need to step up? What are some things that you would like to see from this team as we head into the game tonight to get the win and get back into the series?
Yeah. Well, obviously back at home now, and they'll finally be able to get to dictate the matchups a little bit more, having last change again. And I think that will be something that they, can find a positive in, is that they can get Cirelli and whoever they put alongside him. I don't know if they'll shuffle the lines up a bit. I would certainly expect that at this point. So they can get, the matchups that they want, try to slow this team down as much as they can. But I think if the Lightning are going to win this game tonight, they're going to have to get something either from lower in the lineup offensively, or they're going to have to get something from their power play. Power play has gone cold. They haven't gotten, a ton of chances, really. The penalties have dried up as well, from towards the end of the Rangers series and then this one as well. But the power play has gone cold, and they're going to need something from them. I'd like to see them move the puck around a little faster than they have. But I think that's, a great way to try to get back in the series, especially if you get one early.
Yeah, I think ESPN showed during game 2 that there was a stretch where Nathan McKinnon skated for like 100 feet of untouched ice. Mm-hmm. And that's their guy. That's their ace. You can't. How do you not have a body on him? And I think it's mental mistakes that this team has made so far. You look at the shot attempts in game 2, it was 60-28. Mm-hmm. They're not. They're the Lightning aren't. They really looked like the Toon Squad playing against the Monstars before they figured out how to play against this team in Space Jam.
Yeah, I feel like that's the Avalanche game. They can take over the game like nobody else, and whenever they're going, they've got the puck the entire time. They've got the puck. They're pressuring you when you've got the puck, and it just seemed that the Lightning never really had much of a possession, especially on offense. The shots were one and done, and they never had really any sustained pressure. And that's the Avalanche game, especially when they're going with speed coming through the center ice and getting those zone entries. It just feels like they have the puck the entire time. And I think that's been the case for a lot of the first 2 games, and they're going to have to try to slow them down somehow, and just they need to have more possession and manage the puck a little bit better for sure.
I know we've talked about Darcy Kemper is probably the 3rd best goalie. I'm not going to use the word worst because I feel that that's disrespectful to. If you've made it to the pros, you're good. Period. So I feel he's the 3rd best goalie that they have faced in this postseason run this year.
Sure.
And 17 shot attempts. Like, you don't even get a chance to show that he's the 3rd best when you've got 17 shots on goal. So there's times where everybody looks confused. We talked about Victor Hedman after game 1, kind of looking a little lost and slow up there, and everybody's looking that way. Kucherov is looking that way. Alex Killorn is like, people are getting the puck and just not even knowing what to do with it, it seems like. And there's no room to skate. And it just looks like the Avalanche team is able to cover more surface area at a quicker pace. Because how many times have we seen an open shot for the Lightning through 2 games? It's very, very rare. It's always contested. There's always somebody that's on. There's never a wide open guy. I think there's been, what did we have? I think we had 2 one-timer chances in game 2, and both, unfortunately, both were fans, and we missed on both of those. Not saying that they would have been goals anyway, but they're just not creating any offense either. Then they're not setting themselves up. Even power plays. My wife noticed this, and she's like, I thought that the Lightning were on a power play, and it looks like the Avalanche have the same amount of defenders out as they normally would if they don't have a penalty. And that's when I started noticing, going, yeah, this team has a very uncanny ability to cover a lot of area very, very fast. And there was no space with a man advantage for the Lightning.
Yeah, this team can really overwhelm you. Special teams, 5-on-5, everything. They've got the ability to skate and make things miserable for you out there, and they've done that through 2 games. And as far as the goaltending has gone, I thought that the Lightning have totally left. They've kind of let Kemper off the hook for sure. My belief is that you have to have really high-end, elite level goaltending to win the Stanley Cup. And Kemper's a very good goalie, but he's not one of the best for sure. And I think that they've totally let him off the hook a bit with he had a shutout in game 2, but he didn't really see a whole lot of dangerous chances.
Yeah, and, did he really have a shutout?
He didn't really get much action. But this team has kind of proven that maybe you don't have to have elite level goaltending if your team in front of them is so good and so dominant that it doesn't really matter so much. So it's kind of a different approach than what we've seen from past few champions for sure.
Yeah. My wife officially just commented. She said that she physically counted the players to make sure that we were on a power play, and it's scary because this is not an 0-2 deficit to the Rangers. The Rangers, you could see weaknesses and you could see holes in their game, and this is the Stanley Cup final. These are the 2 best teams in the NHL. You can't expect a Colorado Avalanche team to go up 2-0 in the series, go up 2-0 in game 3, and then blow the entire series from there. You can't expect that to happen. This is not the New York Rangers. And that's not a slight at the Rangers. This was the preseason favorite to win the Stanley Cup. And this is the current favorite to win the Stanley Cup, even before the series started. And now the series is significantly shifted towards the favor of the Colorado Avalanche. So we have to just got to button it up. You got to play Tampa Bay Lightning hockey. You got to slow it down. You've got to create offense, and you've got to help the best goaltender in the world out. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like we are forgetting. A lot of Tampa Bay Lightning fans are getting on Vasilevsky as well. Like, we're forgetting that this is the best goalie in the world without question. And when you leave him out to dry, you see exactly what happens. And that's the best goalie in the world. So you've got to rally around him. You've got to help him out. You can't leave the net wide open in front of him. You have to close lanes. And so many times their lanes are just wide open.
Yeah, for sure. The hole does feel a bit different this time around. The Rangers, it was almost like they had kind of overextended their stay a bit in the playoffs. It felt like, obviously they were riding a hot goaltender as well. They played 2 7-game series in rounds 1 and 2 on the way to face the Lightning, and it kind of felt like towards the end they kind of ran out of gas. And you don't have that going for you against the Avalanche. They swept 2 of their 3 rounds so far, and they've had plenty of time to rest. It's probably the least amount of games we've seen a team play through 3 rounds on the way to the final in a long time. Like the LA Kings in 2012 might have been the last team to only lose 2 games through 3 rounds. So they don't have that going for them. The Lightning don't. And, this team's really going right now. And if they're going to try to get anything going, they got to get Vasi going. And I think that's the biggest thing. Maybe he'll be able to settle in a bit more at home as the team's able to dictate the matchups a little bit more and hopefully try to slow them down as much as possible. And he's got to be able to have the answers when his time comes, because no matter what, Colorado's going to get their shots, they're going to get their chances, and he's got to do something to keep try to keep the puck out of the net as much as possible and try to create just an opportunity. You can only win one game, and that's what you got to do tonight is just win one game. So they'll need him big time.
Obviously, we know this Tampa Bay Lightning team is very good at home, and they're a completely different animal, especially during this postseason, this current postseason run. But the Colorado Avalanche are also very, very, very good on the road as well. I still see the Lightning with an advantage. I think that they have the experience on their side. They've got arguably the greatest coach in the world. They've got unarguably the greatest goalie in the world. They've got all of this championship, as you say, this championship DNA on this roster, all of the experience. Unless they are just completely outmatched by this Colorado Avalanche team, I don't see the Lightning losing 3 in a row. I see them picking up at least the win tonight. We'll talk about what we saw, as we get ready to preview Game 4. We'll talk about what we saw happen tonight, win or lose. But I don't see the Lightning dropping 3 straight. I just don't see it.
Yeah, it is really hard to imagine it happening. This team has always had the answer. No matter what the situation is, they always come through and do something to make you keep believing. So I expect that to be the case again. There's plenty that they can draw on from their history and their recent history. I totally expect them to win this game. You can't make up the deficit all in one night. You can only win the game ahead of you, and I think that they've got all the answers to be able to win this game tonight.
I think another little tidbit that I noticed in Game 2 is that every time the Lightning have lost, whether it was Game 1 against the Maple Leafs, I believe it was the second game against the Rangers, and then the second game against the Avalanche, there's always been a little brawl at the end of these games, which seems to ignite this team. Even if it's just a little bit, it seems to give them a little more energy that carries over into the next game, which I definitely think we need. You combine that with our incredible fan base at Amalie, and then I feel like we're looking at an energized team that is playing very dangerous hockey in the sense of their backs are against the wall. And, they say this all the time. If you see an animal that feels like they're in danger, they're going to attack. And I think that that's what we're going to get from this Lightning team tonight. And I think you're going to see, I think tonight we finally see why Darcy Kemper is the third best goalie or fourth best goalie that they have played in this postseason.
Yeah. I think a lot of that stuff at the end of the game is just, trying to get some life, get some good feelings going, and, send that message to the opponent that they're not going to go away. This Lightning team, they won't back down from anybody. And, they're just getting that life that they need from that sort of, the extracurriculars afterwards. And yeah, you got to think it's got to roll over to some sort of confidence in Game 3. And, it's just crazy that the focus that they've had and proven that they can have bouncing back from things like this. Cause, as, an observer or fan or whatever your engagement level is, the last 2 games have been pretty negative, and you're so locked in and you're so emotional about these games. And after you see 2 games like that, it's hard to come back with the same sort of excitement or focus, and the team always comes back with that level of focus, and it's incredibly impressive. But hey, it's the Stanley Cup final, and you got a home game, and if you can't get up or get excited for that, then this isn't for you.
Who do you think needs to step it up the most in terms of? I guess we can even kind of go down the road because I feel like everybody needs to step it up at least a little bit. But in terms of taking on the leadership role and just like kind of rallying the troops, do you think that that's going to be more of a Nikita Kucherov? We know he's not a very vocal guy. He kind of like leads with his eyes and his body language.
Yeah.
But do you think that it needs somebody like a Nikita Kucherov to step up, or is that solely a Steven Stamkos thing of rallying the troops tonight?
Yeah, everyone knows this is Stammer's team. Kucherov, like you said, he's not the most vocal guy, but he always steps up with the way he plays when they need it. He got that tying goal in Game 6 against Toronto back in round 1 when they're down 3-2 and trailing in the third period. So he's a guy for sure, and I think Hedman for me. He's I put him as the second biggest leader on this team behind Stammer. He hasn't had a great first 2 games. No one would really argue with that, and I think that he can have the ability to take over games, and he has a commanding presence as well. And I think that if we see him managing the puck better and able to dominate his time out there, then I think that will go a long way, because he's maybe the most important player after Vasi for me. It all starts from your back end, and if he's able to have a good game, then I think that they'll be in a better spot. And I think that he was better in games 3 and 4 against the Rangers than he was in first 2 games of that series as well. So I would expect to see something better for him if the Lightning hope of winning a game and getting back in the series.
Yeah, I think Victor Hedman is probably maybe a 1A. I would say a 1B would probably be Anthony Cirelli. I think we were counting on Cirelli a lot to kind of slow down the Nathan McKinnon line, and the entire checking line just has not really done a great job. Man, I could even go 1C and put Ryan McDonough up there as well, because he's played very non-veteran like hockey through 2 games. Getting the hooking penalty. He had a turnover, but I guess the most important person for me has got to be Victor Hedman, because you've got a guy who's consistently talked about as one of the best defensemen in the league, who's just not playing at that level. And this isn't even he's averaging 1 point per game. Victor Hedman's not like these. If you wipe the slate clean and look at how he's performed over these last 2 games, this is not Victor Hedman that anybody has grown to know and love. This is the Victor Hedman of like when Jonathan Ericsson was towards the end of his run with the Detroit Red Wings, and you're like, okay, yeah, this guy's just doesn't. He's not playing well. We've got to take him out. And we've got to get better hockey out of Victor Hedman on the defensive side, because he's not playing well, and he still looks lost. I don't know if it's an altitude thing. I know that's kind of been the running joke is maybe they haven't adapted and adjusted to the altitude, but I don't think that's what that is. I think that's getting in your own head. You have mental blocks. You're seeing this onslaught of offense from this Colorado Avalanche team, and you're not really sure what way you want to go. It's kind of I can either go left or right, so I'm going to go left, but you should have went right kind of thing for Victor Hedman so far. So I think he needs to clean it up a little bit, slow it down. Maybe he's trying to play too fast. He's trying to match the speed of the Avalanche, and that's not really Hedman's game. Hedman's game, along with a lot of our Lightning, is to finesse, to play slow, to play methodical, to wear you down. Like, we don't have a fast team. Everybody knows that. The Lightning, I'm 99.9% sure our Lightning team knows that they are not a fast skating team. They're not a fast paced team. They can score very quickly, but they can score quickly because they are great at moving the puck, which have not been so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that this Avalanche team has been extremely overwhelming, and I think that that's really shown on the defense for me, the biggest thing that with the D has been they just haven't been able to get the puck out. They have not been able to break the puck out cleanly. Colorado's forecheck has made it really difficult. And if those defense are able to break the puck out a little better, I think that they've got a great shot. They've been turning things over in their own end, and if they're able to just get it out a lot more, you gotta like their chances more, just because they're not fueling the attack for Colorado, and they've just been extremely overwhelming. But from the defense to everyone has to be better, because truthfully, there was no one that really looked good through games 1 and 2.
No, unfortunately not. So heading into tonight, I don't even want to ask you for a score, because I feel like after what we've seen through 2, I don't feel like it's fair to ask you for a score. Is this a bounce back game for the Lightning tonight? Are they gonna take a notch off the belt here and go 2-1 in the series?
I think so. I mean, they always answer. No matter how dead they look. I have no reason to believe otherwise. Of course, it'd be extremely disappointing if they don't come out the way that they need to. But they've the track record is enough for me. I believe that they're gonna have a bounce back, and I don't think that there's a reasonable person out there that would expect otherwise, because it speaks for themselves what they've accomplished, and the types of situations they've been in before, and I certainly expect a bounce back for sure.
I mean, Chris Chelios isn't giving up on the Lightning yet, and he doesn't care. I loved that quote from him. I'm not giving up on the Lightning, and I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, how could you? What they've accomplished the past few years. They've been in every sort of situation you can imagine, and they always come out on the better end of it. You won't come out winning the series tonight. You can only win one game, and they're not dead. They're not dead yet, and until they're completely buried and they're still standing right now, they've always got a shot.
Yep. This team they don't back down. Tampa Bay finds a way against the Colorado Avalanche, find a ways as well, which I find that interesting that they're both using the Colorado's using the Lightning quote. But I mean, hey, it is what it is. Game 3 is tonight, 8:00 at Amalie Arena. Must win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Henry and I are both in agreement that if it does not come down to a Lightning W tonight, unfortunately, the series is most likely going to be over. I just hope it's not a sweep. I told you before game 1, Henry, that even if the Lightning happen to lose this series, I want to see good hockey played, because it's not often we get the top 2 teams projected in the offseason to face off for the championship. And unfortunately, we have not seen good hockey. So hopefully we see good hockey tonight. That's all I ask for, is the remainder of the series. I just want to see some good hockey, because this is the last we're going to see for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not just for the fans of these 2 teams, but the NHL as a whole. We didn't see maybe the most competitive final last year, so I hope to see something a little closer this time around, and I believe that we should get that here in Game 3 at the very least.
I'm hoping so as well. Henry, as always, we appreciate you joining in with us. Go Bolts tonight, and we'll do this all over again, either with smiles or with Kleenex tomorrow morning, and to wipe our sorrows away. Maybe We'll have some Cigar Cities with us. Who knows? Slam some IPAs during the show if it hits the fan tonight, but you never know.
Yeah, we'll see. Time will tell.
All right. Well, we appreciate you as always joining the show. Always great to talk to you, talk Bolts. Hopefully we can keep this trend going for the next handful of days at the very least.
Yeah, let's hope. Thanks as always.
All right. Appreciate it, Henry.
Got it.
Well, you heard it. Tampa Bay Lightning must-win game. Henry's in agreement with myself as well that we got to turn it around. Play Tampa Bay Lightning hockey. That's not what we have been playing lately through these last 2 games, and obviously that was very apparent in the last game, in the 7-0 shutout, where we made Darcy Kemper look like a superstar goalie, because he got credited for a shutout, and that's all that really matters. Darcy Kemper is a shutout goalie in Stanley Cup Finals history now, because we couldn't score a lot, and that's not on I said that's not a slight on Darcy, but that's just how, unfortunately, that's how the cookie crumbled. Speaking of crumbling, the you knew I was going to do it because we have to. The Rays lost 7 of 9 on this latest road trip. Not good. They're now they're a half game up of the Boston Red Sox, and eventually we have to stop this. Yeah, but we're blank games ahead or above 500. We have to stop that argument at some point in time because that number has continued to dwindle. It started off as, yeah, but we're 10 games above 500. Well, now we're 6 games above 500. 36 and 30. Like, not look, it's let me run some numbers here for you. Okay. Obviously, we know that the Rays are hosting the Yankees starting today for their 3-game series. And just for clarity, the Red Sox are hosting the lowly Detroit Tigers, which makes all of these games against the Yankees that much more important because you don't want to be a contending team. And I don't care how optimistic you are. There's a difference between being optimistic and having a false sense of reality and being optimistic and then being realistic at the same time. The AL East is the toughest division in Major League Baseball. You do not want to fall into 4th place really at any point in time, especially if we're going to use the, yeah, but we don't pay people argument, because that means that you're not paying superstars to help dig you out of the hole that you're in. That's the unfortunate circumstance that we as Tampa Bay Ray fans are living in. That is the reality. That is not a false sense of reality. Unfortunately, that's where we are. The league batting average in Major League Baseball this season is 242. The Tampa Bay Rays have 10 players batting under 242 and only 6 batting over. Obviously, we know Wander Franco is out. He'll be back. Hopefully, he'll be back this week, either this week or next week. Could really use him against the Yankees, but you don't want to rush arguably your best player into returning to action. There's been 42 errors for this Tampa Bay Rays team, which is the 8th most in the league. They have turned 47 double plays, which is the 6th lowest in the league. And yet somehow this team that is batting below the league average, this team that is 8th most in errors and 6th lowest in double plays created, still has a 71.2% chance of making the postseason, which shows you the respect, and it shows you how good this Tampa Bay Rays team is supposed to be. If you're not living up to your potential, that comes back to your coaching. Because these live percentage updates are based off of they're live. They're based off of every game. They're based off of what analytics are seeing. They're based off of what statistics are seeing. The wins above replacement currently for the Tampa Bay Rays is not that much of a drastic drop off from their starters versus the players that are filling in for the injured players. This is a very inconsistent team on the verge of becoming a very poor team for the remainder of the season. And this is not on your pitching. The pitching is allowing 3.12 earned runs per game. Last year, 100-win season. We all like to talk about the 100-win season, right? 100-win season last year, 3.73 is what the pitching allowed in earned runs. So the pitching is actually better this season than it was last season. They're not generating any runs. If your pitching is, they're just over 3 earned runs allowed per game. If your pitching is doing its job and you are 8th highest in errors and you are 6th lowest in double plays created from fielding, it's coaching. I know. Kevin Cash, 2-time back-to-back AL Manager of the Year. Maybe he is just relying on that title because Rays fans are giving him a pass. Rays fans are looking for every excuse in the book to not say that this team is underperforming. Yeah, but we're so many games above 500 and we're injured. I just showed you and told you that the stat win above replacement is 1.12. That is not that much better from your starters to the current players that are playing for this team. That's not like you can't use that as an argument. The Rays had 100 wins basically with this same team that they had last year. Sure, injuries happen. You have to account for injuries. Maybe the farm system that we rely on so heavily, maybe the farm system isn't as good as we like to think it is. Maybe we get a couple superstars out of it and then say, okay, well, maybe it's not that great. At some point, somebody's got to be held accountable for what is happening with the Tampa Bay Rays falling apart. June is closing up. You got July, August, and September. You got 3 months to figure it out and to get it together in the toughest division in Major League Baseball. And that's your problem. The Yankees have a 99.9% chance of making the postseason. They're running away with the AL East. Unless they have an insurmountable collapse, the AL East is already the Yankees to win. The Blue Jays are playing very well. The problem with the Blue Jays is the Blue Jays are just playing consistent. They're not even playing very well. They're playing good, but they're consistently playing good. The Red Sox started the season off terribly, and they're starting to turn it on. As you see, we're only a half game up. Now we're only 2.5 games up of the Baltimore Orioles for bottom of the barrel. You've got to turn something around, and we have to stop relying on, well, we had 100 wins last year. Last year has no focal point on this year. It didn't carry over. Whatever positive momentum we had from the World Series run 2 years ago, whatever positive momentum we had from a 100-win season last season, none of that is carried over, and the team has regressed. And you can't look anywhere else but coaching. I know you guys don't want to talk about it. Kevin Cash is the coach. Kevin Cash is the manager. He's the skipper. It's his job to rally the troops, to get everybody in line, and he has not done that thus far throughout this season. They're bad in fielding. They're bad batting. The only thing that is good currently for this Rays team is pitching. And the pitching is not going to win you games if you can't generate any offense. Maybe Wander Franco comes back and they start generating a little bit of offense. Perfect. Now you can possibly start turning the corner, but you still have to improve on the errors. You still have to improve on the lack of double plays. There's still a lot of issues with this team that nobody seems to want to talk about, which is, to me, it's very unnerving that we're living in this little bubble of, oh, well, yeah, everything is going to be okay because we're hurt, or everything is going to be okay because of what happened last season. It's not playing out very well yet, guys. So we've got to start looking at holding people accountable and just demanding better from a team that still has a 3/4 of a percent of a chance of making the playoffs. That's 71.2 is still high. That's the respect that this team has. We'll look at it again next week. Look at it after this Rays series. After the Rays Yankees series, we'll look at it then and see what that number is. They dropped 20%, I want to say, over the last week because they lost 7 of 9. And the Twins and the Orioles, come on, guys. We've got to be better than this. We have to stop relying on the moral victories and the excuses as to why this team's underperforming. That's fact of the matter. Mike Tannenbaum was on Get Up last week, Friday, and says that Todd Bowles is actually an upgrade over Bruce Arians. Now, I know a lot of you are pumping the brakes right now. because you're looking at Todd Bowles' Jets resume, which is not good. But I don't think anybody would have had a good resume with that Jets team. First season was fine. The remaining seasons were not good because all of their star players were injured. Football is definitely, and for that Jets team, that was a huge drop off. It wasn't a 1A, 1B, 1C kind of thing. That was a huge drop off. And he actually compared Bill Belichick's Cleveland resume when he left the Browns to Todd Bowles' resume when leaving the Jets. His defensive-minded coaches will help clean up turnovers, mistakes, and penalties, which is actually correct because when you look at the game from a defensive perspective, you're looking at how do we limit points. If you're an offensive-minded coach like Bruce Arians is, you're looking at how do we score more points. So I think that having this potent offense and having Tom Brady almost essentially run this offense, I think Todd Bowles does put this team possibly in a better position than Bruce Arians did, simply for the fact that him being a defensive-minded coach, he will look at things differently. He will look at limiting turnovers. And I know he said he is also a no risk it, no biscuit kind of guy like Bruce Arians is, but maybe he's not quite as risk it, if you will. And he'll reel in Tom Brady from dropping back 44 times per game like he did last season. It's always a possibility. I have a hard time saying that I have Bruce Arians as a step down from where Todd Bowles could have this team. However, I'm optimistic. I liked what Todd Bowles did. I've touched on this a couple of times. I wrote a piece on it when Todd Bowles took over and when he was also interviewing for head coaching positions during the offseason. He has improved the defense of every team that he's been on. He improved the Arizona Cardinals. He improved the New York Jets. He's improved the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. So everything that he has done has been great. From the defensive side, he was the head coach with the New York Jets, and it didn't really turn out the way he wanted to. But I don't think that anybody could have done good with that Jets team as it was. Just my thoughts on that. Quick nugget, which I thought was very interesting, is Pro Football Focus has a redraft of the 2019 draft, and they have the Buccaneers selecting Jeffrey Simmons over Devin White. Now, I know a lot of people are kind of torn on Devin White. And I think I've said this before as well, where I think that it's because Devin White was so good his rookie season that he set the bar too high. And that raised everybody's expectations of, oh my God, if this guy is this good in his rookie season, how is it going to turn out in year 2, 3, 4, 5 down the road? I think it's plateaued. And I think that we should kind of level out our expectations of what Devin White will be as well, which is a very good linebacker still. Is it a superstar linebacker? It's not. And once we reel in and plateau those expectations, I think everybody will be happy with who Devin White is and what he has become. And no, he is a vocal leader. He is kind of the heart and soul of this defense, kind of taking it over from Levante David. And Devin White he's still going to be a focal point of this defense. I just think it's very interesting that they have Jeffrey Simmons being taken over Devin White. And I guess part of the reason is because they still had Gerald McCoy and they had not signed Ndamukong Suh at that point, which makes sense in hindsight. Because you didn't really have any answers on the defensive line after Gerald McCoy and before you brought in Ndamukong Suh. It's a fun little talking point. This has been a talking point of mine for quite some time. Even dating back to last offseason. Saquon Barkley has been tied to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in terms of trade scenarios. And simply for the fact that Saquon Barkley he is now on the last year of his rookie contract. So he's on an expiring deal. And I am still a Saquon Barkley believer. I believe that Saquon Barkley is playing on an offense that is non-existent. And it's not even a Barry Sanders style offense when he was in Detroit, because Herman Moore was still grabbing 1,000 yards. Brett Perriman was having 1,000 yards. It didn't matter who was the quarterback. It didn't matter if it was Rodney Peete. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was Scott Mitchell. Everybody was eating on the Detroit Lions offense. It was the defense that was causing them problems. Daniel Jones has not played well. Saquon Barkley was coming back from an ACL injury. The ankle injury is whatever. The ankle injury is going to happen. It was after the play, and he just happened to step on a guy's foot and roll the ankle. I mean, you can't call a guy injury prone for something like that. Injury prone happens when you're playing the game. If you're going to get tackled, you're going to get hurt, whatever. To me, that's injury prone. It's not after the play you step on a guy's foot and roll your ankle. That's everyday life. Stuff happens. Kenny Golladay was really bad. Kadarius Toney was non-existent outside of the one game against the Dallas Cowboys. Sterling Shepard often injured. So I think Saquon Barkley was really playing on a team that had absolutely no answers for him. They had no ability to bounce back and even attempt to bounce back properly from that injury. So if you offer something like a high day 2 pick, Scott Reynolds from Pewter Report said, I like that idea. And I still believe that Leonard Fournette, who everybody is concerned with his weight, I think that Leonard Fournette paired with an 80% healthy Saquon Barkley is a better duo than Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones were during their Super Bowl run. I think Saquon Barkley is such a fantastic pass catching back out of the backfield that it really, and he's better than Giovanni Bernard. I'm sorry. He's stronger than Gio. He's a better pass catcher than Gio. He's faster. And he's younger. He's a hell of a lot stronger. I mean, the guy's got tree trunks for quads. But Saquon Barkley is definitely an upgrade over the Super Bowl pairing of Rojo and Fournette. And I think that's what you have to look at. And I'm okay. I'm A-okay with offering a high-level day 2 pick to get an expiring contract of Saquon Barkley and see what you can get out of him. The best thing for Saquon Barkley would be to say, hey, yeah, I'm open. See what you can find to get me to a contending team so I can get healthy again. Because he's not going to be relied on to be a bell cow. I mean, most running backs aren't really relied on upon that any longer, but you've got a very good starting running back in Leonard Fournette. You add Saquon Barkley to that. Now Saquon Barkley has a lot of the workload taken off. You can try to fit into an offense, try to find himself again. I think that that's worth a day 2 pick. I really do. I think that it's something that you need to look at if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I do understand that anywhere between I think it's $10.8 million, give or take. I understand that that's probably going to be allotted for Rob Gronkowski to sign before camp starts at the end of July. But in the event that it's not, why not make a phone call to see what the Giants are looking in return to get with Saquon Barkley? Because I don't believe he's going to come back anyway. I'm always a firm believer in, if you're pretty sure and pretty certain that a player is not going to come back and he's coming into the year on an expiring contract, get rid of him, get something back for him. A day 2 pick, 3rd round pick, whatever, 4th round pick. I know at some point during the offseason, they said Saquon Barkley, I believe it was at the Combine. Ian Rappaport said this on the Pat McAfee show, that Saquon Barkley was viewed as a 5th round pick at best by a lot of NFL general managers. Offer a 4th round pick then. Screw it. What do you have to lose? I know we like Rachaad White. I know Keyshawn Vaughn looked good when he was called upon last season. But if we're really, truly going to sit here and act like we're concerned with Leonard Fournette's weight, which we shouldn't be because he comes in hefty every offseason. But if we're really truly concerned over Leonard Fournette's weight, let's make a phone call to New York, see how easily and how frugal we can be to get somebody like a Saquon Barkley and see what we've got with him. Could you imagine being able to re-sign Saquon Barkley and then you're looking at a huge question mark at quarterback going into after this season? Huge question mark at quarterback. What are we going to do? Who are we going to have? We don't know. It's probably not going to be Tom Brady. Load up in the skill positions. You've already got a fantastic offensive line. You've got a top 5 offensive line. You've got a first ballot Hall of Famer in Mike Evans. You've got a very, very good superstar receiver in Chris Godwin. You've got Russell Gage, who was very good in Atlanta and very underutilized in Atlanta as well. You've got Leonard Fournette, who has found a resurgence and rebuilt his career. And now you're going to have a Saquon Barkley potentially. Sign me up. Give Trask a chance. Throw Kyle Trask in there then. Throw the third string quarterback in there. And I'm pretty sure that with all of those pieces around him, he's going to succeed. Which then brings it back to, why not look at somebody, if you're really not set on Blaine Gabbert or Kyle Trask, look at somebody like Jimmy Garoppolo. Look at somebody like Baker Mayfield. Throw them on a prove-it deal. Let them battle it out with the guys on the roster now. Let them battle it out with Kyle Trask. Let them battle it out with Blaine Gabbert and see what happens. Because if you're that loaded up in the skill positions, all you need is a serviceable quarterback. You don't need to have an MVP caliber quarterback to get you to the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford was highly regarded as garbage time and a stat patter when he was in Detroit. Super Bowl winning quarterback now. Kind of goes with the territory, doesn't it? NBA draft is on Thursday. Yes, I'm trying to implement more Orlando Magic talk into our morning show here. The consensus is that the Magic are going to take Jabari Smith Jr. Everybody says that. I mean, fans will debate back and forth between Jabari and Chet Holmgren. I get it. But what the Magic really, really need to do, in my opinion, is figure out who Oklahoma City wants. Figure out who Oklahoma City wants and start saying that you are not sold on Jabari Smith. Start selling the fact that you might be interested in Chet Holmgren. Let's say that's Oklahoma City is enamored with Chet Holmgren. We might not be sold 100% on Jabari Smith. We might also be interested in Chet Holmgren. We've got 2 second-round picks. We want to trade back into the first round. The Magic have been pretty open about wanting to have 2 first-round picks this season. You want to move Terrence Ross? You've got 2 second-round picks. You want to get back into the first round? You can kind of hold Oklahoma City ransom, then trade back. Get the guy you want to get. Unless they want Jabari Smith and we really want Jabari Smith in Orlando, make that trade. Call up Oklahoma City and fleece them. Send them a stupid offer. We might take your guy. What would you like to do to make sure that you get the guy that you really want? And make the trade happen. This is how you execute a trade on draft day properly, especially when you're in a position of power for a team that is probably most likely tied to a player that you're not going to want to take anyway. Because I think Jabari Smith still fits the Orlando Magic roster better than Chet Holmgren does. So what do you have to lose about holding them accountable and saying, hey, this is your guy? Let's make this happen. Let's get your guy for you, but it's going to cost you X, Y, and Z. Get everything that you need to get. You might be able to move up. You might be able to get another second-round pick. You move back from 1 to 2, take Oklahoma's second-round pick. You've now got 3 second-round picks, and you've got Terrence Ross that you want to move. Perfect. Make some phone calls. You could probably move up into the teens for another first-round pick. Just something to think about as we head into the draft on Thursday. That is going to wrap it up for us on this Monday edition of Channelside Sports in the Morning. Of course, please follow us on all of the social media platforms. Just search for the Channelside Sports Network. If you're on YouTube, we appreciate it. Please hit that subscribe button and interact with us in the chat. I know we're getting more viewers, more chatters throughout the day, which every day is great. If you're not getting better quick, you're getting bad quick. I'd prefer to get better quick, which I appreciate it. Welcome to all of our new Twitter followers. I've gotten over like 100 in the last couple of days, which is absolutely beautiful. We love you, Tampa. We appreciate it. We're going to do this all over again tomorrow morning. Hopefully we're talking about a Bolts win. Evan will be here. Henry will be here. Action-packed show tomorrow. That's going to do it for us. Channelside